Hello, I'm Mike Russell from Music Radio Creative. If you're a podcaster or a YouTuber, you know that good audio is at least half the experience of good content. So creating a good sounding podcast or video is all important. And we often struggle with things such as getting rid of background noise, making voices sound better, leveling out multiple clips, and hitting that all-important loudness standard. Enter the Waves Content Creator Audio Toolkit. With this, you can do all of that in 4 easy steps, and I'm going to show you how in this tutorial. First, let's have a listen to the difference that all the plugins in the Waves Content Creator Audio Toolkit make to a piece of audio. Here's an example, and there's lots of background noise. Watch the levels meter.
Hi everybody, my name is Isabella Russell and I would like to introduce our latest problem solver for creators.
And now we'll watch how the waveform changes after all the plugins are applied. There we go. You can see how much easier this is going to be to hear. There'll be more presence to the voice. And of course, watch the levels meter again. No background noise.
Hi everybody, my name is Isabella Russell and I would like to introduce our latest problem solver for creators.
Let's find out how that's done. Let's start with step number 1, getting rid of background noise. Here at the start of the podcast, if I make it really loud, you'll hear terrible air conditioning noise, background rumble, anything like that can be removed very, very easily, and I'll show you how. You just simply go in and add, first of all, into the first slot, the mono edition of the NS1 noise suppressor. And then it's a case of taking this fader from 0 to 100, whatever's appropriate for your level of noise. Watch this as I move it up and play back, the noise suppression kicks in. You can see this clearly if I switch on preview mode before, after. It's not so clear in waveform, but if I go into spectral frequency view, you'll see that the noise is occurring down here in the low end, bit of rumble, bit of hum from that air conditioning unit. And then if we look at the after, just at 20%, we're going to start to see that disappearing. And the further I push that up, the more that noise is suppressed and removed when there is no speech. Let's listen.
Hi everybody, my name is Isabella Russell
and you can see it kicking in between the words. It's not touching the speech, but every time there's silence or noise to suppress, NS1 does it perfectly. Okay, on to step number 2, how to make a voice sound better. Okay, now it's time to add in another plugin, Greg Wells Voice Centric, the mono edition, and this is essentially one knob, but it does 3 amazing things. Firstly, it compresses, so any spikes you can see here, all through the speech, levels them out, so makes the voice more consistent in volume. Then it adds some EQ into the mix, which essentially makes your voice crisper, clearer, and sound better. And finally, it de-esses, meaning any sibilance, any top-end distortion that can sound really harsh in headphones in particular, it's eliminating that. So it's amazing, all in this one knob. First, let's load in the Voice Podcast preset, and let's listen to how it works in practice from 0 to 100%. So we'll play back
the different audio sources in your whole show, automatically and continuously.
So as you can hear, a lot clearer, a lot easier to hear when I push the intensity up. Not only that, it's doing this over here,
the different audio sources in,
which is your gain reduction. So essentially when something gets a bit too loud, it pushes it down. And essentially what Voice Centric is doing is exactly what it says on the tin. It's centering in on the voice and making it sound better. On to step number 3 now, how to level out multiple audio clips in your show to sound like they're the same volume. So for this example here, I'm now in the multi-track and I've got a host and a guest speaking. Now I've done everything. I've put in the NS1 plugin, the Voice Centric on both tracks. So both tracks nicely processed. Next, leveling out all those clips so they're all at the same volume without any kind of compression or change to the sound of the voice, just simply riding it using Playlist Rider. Now, I would usually add this onto the master track in the effects rack here, but visually, so I can show you, I'm actually going to mix down this entire session into a waveform so you can really see visually what Playlist Rider is doing. And as you'll see here, okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. That host is at about -4 dB on the level meters, and then
the podcast is amazing, and it showcased
our guest is down at -10, so definitely, you'll agree, a difference in levels. This is our before image up here, this is our after image, and this would be my master chain. Right now in the waveform view, I'm adding it here to show you how it's going to look. let's go into Playlist Writer Mono, and we'll go straight away for the preset here for podcast and music, normalizing here to -16 for loudness, which is fantastic. And you'll see still in the after view here a difference between our host and our speaker. This is where we need to move the detector threshold. Now, if we push this down too far, it's going to suck up everything because it tries to level everything out. So when you get to the end of the speech, it'll suck up any background noise, pushing it right up to maximum volume, which we do not want. So back to the initial preset here, which was at around -36 dB as the detector threshold. Now I'm going to slowly push this down until I see that Playlist Writer is doing its job and leveling out both different voices. So let's go down by about just over 10 dB. It's doing a good job there. Let's go down to maybe -50-ish. Somewhere around there. Now we're starting to see similar levels. This is leveled out. This guest is now much louder compared to the original. Let's listen back. Okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. What is your opinion on this podcast?
This podcast is amazing and it showcases to you fantastic benefits.
And you can see there, just as the guest comes in, it's pushing up the gain there, which is doing exactly the right job for you. That audio engineer on automation is pushing your levels up and down as needed. The attack is slow by default on this podcast preset, but if you want a faster reaction time with this gain and levels when you're going between different speakers, you might want to switch this over to fast to make a slight difference. Tonal character you can leave as on. This basically means it's normalizing to a pink EQ curve so that every speaker should sound pretty much similar. So that is one fantastic advantage. Definitely get Playlist Writer into your master chain down here and just add it in right here. So it processes everything in your podcast, evens out the levels. But not only that, there is another use for Playlist Writer, as well as popping it on the master channel here. If you have a piece of music underneath your speakers, the common problem is that the music overrides what's being heard. Okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. What is your... Nothing can be heard. So it's as simple as going in, adding in a copy of Playlist Writer here, mono, or of course, if you're working with music, I definitely recommend you go for the stereo version of Playlist Writer. And there's a preset in there called Music Under Voice. You just need to add that in, and then this plugin does the rest for you. Okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. Taking the gain down. What is your opinion on this podcast?
This podcast is amazing.
And you can hear everything clearly that is being said, all through Playlist Writer. And finally, step 4 for great sounding audio, meeting that all-important loudness standard. Let's add in the WLM Plus meter that's going to keep an eye on our overall loudness so that we're hitting the right long-term loudness. -16 LUFS for podcasting, -14 for online videos such as YouTube. And this ensures that the online services don't use their own compression algorithms on our audio, therefore compressing us further and smashing our dynamic range. So how would this work? Once you've inserted it on your master chain, you can actually load in a preset. So for podcasting here, there is one. And then it's a simple case of increasing or decreasing this gain until we get long-term at -16. Let's try and do it. Okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. What is your opinion? Okay, we might need to reset and try again. So let's push that up and play. Okay, now we need to find out a little bit more. Okay, and look at that. Already we're hitting a long-term of -16 LUFS. It's as easy as that. We can be a 2 dB variance either way in the short term, but as long-term is ticked on -16, we are pretty good to go. Now you might be saying, well, what if I've got a 30-minute, 60-minute podcast? Do I need to play the whole podcast into this to get the long term? You absolutely don't. All you need to do is find a representative portion of your podcast, play it in, get that gain up to the right level until you hit -16 LUFS. And there you go. All of this is done with ease using the Waves Content Creator Audio Toolkit.